and welcome to everyone out there in the universe. Welcome to our PMC Fall Orientation. My name is Amanda Blay, and I'm a Disabilities Coordinator and Learning Strategist here at Carleton, and I work for the PMC. I have the great pleasure of being your host today for our virtual event, and we welcome you all here, and hopefully you've had a chance to check out some other orientation sessions on campus, which we'll be talking about at the end of our presentation today. Before we get started, I am going to introduce our co-host, Sinclair. So, kids.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sinclair. I'm a student services specialist here at the Paul Menton Centre. I'm really excited to be here with you guys today. I hope you guys learn a lot about our center and have a great time. And I'm going to be hosting one of my favorite sessions, which is the student panel. So you'll get to hear from some students, just like yourselves, who have registered with the PMC and had a great experience. So I'm really excited to chat with you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sinclair. So I wanted to introduce you all to Sinclair because you might hear her voice in the background sometimes. Unfortunately, we can't have a picture-in-picture up here throughout the event. So I just wanted you all to be able to see her face. So if she jumps in and say, hey, Amanda, you forgot to mention this, you know who the speaker is. So before we get started, I wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. As was mentioned in the question and answer section on MS Teams, there is a lot of announcements that will appear there. So you can use this feature to ask staff or presenters any questions you may have during the event. You can click the anonymous box if you want to ask a question without disclosing your name. Your name will not be posted when we publish your questions during the Q&A period. Please note, if you choose to include your name when asking a question, your name may be shared during the Q&A period at the end of the presentation. So it's your choice whether or not you want to stay anonymous or you want to have your name attached there. Another reminder is to keep the PMC Fall Orientation live event webpage available should you get disconnected from us. So that is available on the PMC website, and I believe is being posted right now in the announcements Q&A section. To follow along with the live captions, open the link that Hunter will post in the chat right now, and you'll be able to read what is being said throughout the presentations. And if we experience technical difficulties, because it has been known to happen in the past while hosting this event, it will be announced in the event chats. If no announcement has been made and you're experiencing technical difficulties, the issue may be either your internet connection or some sort of hardware issue, but please be aware that we don't consider lagging to be a technical issue because it does happen. That being said, feel free to contact pmc@carleton.ca or call 613-520-6608, which is our front desk staff for additional support. So now that we have those housekeeping things under control, I just wanted to review with you what the agenda for today is going to look like. So during today's presentation, we will be hearing very shortly from our acting director, who will provide us with a very warm welcome. We will also be hearing from one of our favorite profs about how to successfully navigate the transition to university. There will also be a question and answer period at the end of Professor Motz's presentation. We will also hear from my colleagues here at the Paul Menton Centre about PMC 101. By the way, if you hear PMC mentioned throughout this presentation, that is the acronym for the Paul Menton Centre. So I just wanted to define that for us today. We will have a short break just to allow everyone a chance to kind of, close their eyes for a quick 5 minutes or grab a snack or whatever it is you want to do before we get to the student success panel. So it's definitely a fan favorite and we hope that you stick it out until the end. So to get us started, I am going to introduce our acting director, Bruce Ham. Bruce, are you there?
I am here.
Excellent. Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Welcome everybody to PMC Fall Orientation, and welcome to Carleton University. For those of you, and I think the majority of you are new incoming students, welcome. I had actually prepared a 20-minute presentation today, but PMC staff have threatened to unplug my computer after 5 minutes. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about something that we've all heard, but maybe something that some of us haven't really thought too deeply on, and that is simply luck. If you do a quick Google search, you will come up with a whole host of definitions for luck, most of which are rather uninspiring. Here's an example. Luck is the force that causes things, especially good things, to happen to you by chance and not as a result of your own efforts or abilities. Again, like I said, not very inspiring. But 2,000 years ago, a Roman philosopher by the name of Seneca defined luck as what happens when preparedness meets opportunity. And as incoming students to Carleton University, I wanted to let you know that Carleton is a huge community. On any given day, there'll be roughly 30,000 people on campus, and opportunities will abound. Through your academic career, you will have no shortage of opportunities. So the big question is, will you be prepared for those opportunities? And really, that's the point of what we're trying to accomplish today, is to get you started in the preparation for what you're about to experience. So you'll be receiving lots of good information from PMC staff about how the accommodations process works here at Carleton, as well as some of the services that the Paul Menton Centre offers. You will also hear from a very well-respected faculty member who will give you insights into how you can be successful in your courses. And finally, you're going to hear from a number of your colleagues, students who have already walked in your shoes, and they will share what they've learned along their journey so far in their post-secondary studies. So with that said, I want to wish you all the very best of luck in your fall term and in your progressive studies. And I will now turn it back over to Amanda.
Thank you so much, Bruce. I didn't get to wish you luck, but it seems like you were prepared and ready for this opportunity already. So thanks for that. And Bruce is completely correct in that today and hopefully throughout, academic day, which will be taking place on September 7th, you'll give yourself the opportunity to review and prepare for as much as you can before things get started, so you know what to expect. Sinclair, any other things that I missed back there at all before we introduce our first presenter?
I don't think so, but that was an excellent little introduction from Bruce. And I'm sure everyone is very excited to hear from our professor who's speaking after this. He's an excellent professor, so I'm very excited to hear what he has to say.
That is an excellent segue for me. So I am delighted to introduce Professor Chris Motz, who is a professor in the psychology program. I'm sure there's many of you listening who will have the pleasure of taking his classes this coming fall or in the winter. So Professor Motz, welcome once again, and I turn the stage over to you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Carleton University. I'm hoping that all of this is working. So my name is Chris. I'm an instructor in the Department of Psychology, and I'm here to share some time with you today to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is academic success. And I really want to talk about this really important milestone in our lives, which is this transition to university. It's the start of something brand new and big and exciting, but it also can come along with some anxiety and some nervousness. So there are a few things that we can share shared today that are things that are very manageable, that we can accomplish ourselves, that will help to make a successful transition and to help maybe alleviate some of that nervousness and anxiety that we maybe feel rightfully in this big moment in our lives. So let's get moving on this. I want to talk about a few things related to success, because success, as Bruce was talking about, right, preparation and opportunity. But so that's my very first thing. Success requires preparation. Not all of your courses are the same. And so, to be prepared, we need to get some information, which brings me to this. Success requires us to gather information. We need to go and check out the details about all these different courses in the course websites and the course syllabi, the course outlines. Success also requires teamwork, that we all work together. We're all on this team together to try and help contribute to your academic success. Success involves planning, and we're going to talk about scheduling your way to success. That's the good preparation part. And then last one here, success also involves mistakes. We all make mistakes, and we're talking about how we turn failures into future successes. So that's our objectives. First up, I want to talk about how to prepare, because we need to, for a successful transition and successful start to university, we need to start by figuring out what we're preparing for, the nature of our courses, because not all courses are the same, and often the size of the class is going to have an impact on the way the course functions. So different courses will have different expectations and requirements. So sometimes a course might be a small course, a seminar style course. In a smaller class of maybe 20 students or 30 students, there'd be more opportunities for discussion within the class, more opportunities for written projects and assignments and presentations in a small class. But not all of our classes are like that. Some of our classes, and this is very typical of university at the first year, some of our courses are going to be large courses. It might be 450 people sharing a room together. And in those larger courses, just because of the volume of people, there's probably less opportunity for having discussion or asking questions. There's still room for that. We often still make space for that, but we have to do that sort of in moderate doses, because with 450 people in a class together, if everyone talked, everyone would get 10 seconds, and that would be the entire class. The class would be done, and all everybody got was 10 seconds. And typically also with a larger class like this, where you have this many students, there'll be a reliance on multiple choice testing. It's the nature of that size of a class. So large versus small courses, the larger ones typically are more lecture-based, smaller ones will lean to being more seminar-based. But in addition, we have courses that are going to be on campus. Carleton has really worked very hard this fall to try and create some on-campus opportunities. And we'll still have courses that are going to be online, and then other ones that are going to be blended, or these high flex courses. We're going to come back to those in a moment. So I want to just break down the on-campus versus online and how to prepare. So for on-campus courses in a non-quarantine, non-pandemic universe, one of the things I would suggest is, go to campus, visit campus, and walk around and find your classrooms and sort of map out your pathway from room to room. It helps ease some of the anxiety to see the classroom and to see the buildings and know where you're going. But we can still do this now, right? Right now, Carleton has procedures in place for coming to campus safely, but we can do all of this kind of exploration without needing to go to campus. So we can do things like download the campus map, and we can map out routes from one room to the next room. But you can also, on Google Maps, you can go and see all the buildings and the green spaces, the pathways. And Google Maps also is really quite interesting, because there's quite a lot of 360-degree images where you can plop yourself down into a spot on campus and look all around and see how everything looks. And you can do the same thing. You can Google photos of the various classrooms, so you can get to see what a classroom looks like before you have to go to that classroom. So there's lots that we could do to prepare for when we're eventually on campus, whether it's this semester or next semester. But even for online courses, there's a lot of stuff that we can do to prepare to be successful. And in particular, we're going to talk about the syllabus and the website. So in the course syllabus, I'm going to talk about this being the most important document. We really want to explore the syllabus and get all the details about this. But the syllabus is going to give us some important details about the nature of the online course. So whether it's fully online, and we are fully meeting like this in an online environment, and whether that online course is synchronous or asynchronous. Now, synchronous just means that there are times when we all come together like this at the same time. We share the time and the space together. Asynchronous just means that there isn't a set time where we all have to come together and do the same thing at the same time. So like as an example, in my courses, I've typically gone for the most part with asynchronous course delivery. And that means that I record the class time in advance and I post that on the website. And then my students have the flexibility to be able to engage with that at a time that is convenient for them. So that kind of detail, which would be really important, is in the course syllabus. All right, so I think I've covered additional preparations, things like getting ready for online, but also in person. As part of good preparation would be to figure out what are the contact details and how do you contact your professor or your teaching assistant for the course. That kind of information will typically be in the course syllabus, but that's handy to know, how do I get in touch with a professor for a particular course if something goes wrong. So helpful to know that in advance. And then another part of good preparation is to explore the sort of virtual campus, and by that I'm referring to all of the different websites for all of the different supporting units that are on campus. So if you're majoring in psychology, or if you're majoring in chemistry, or majoring in industrial design, go and explore the website for that department and get familiar with the people in the department and the administrators and the undergraduate advisors, and so for all these different units that you might be engaged with. The Paul Menton Centre is a great example. They've got a wonderful website where you can you can sort of meet all the different people and learn about the different rules and procedures. That's important to sort of take time to explore all of that in advance. Okay. And then I really just wanted to hit on the fact that not all of your online courses will be quite the same. So you could have online courses where it's fully online, but you can also have these sort of blended or high flex courses. So a blended course might have some components where we come face to face in class and some components where we just watch it online. And then this semester, what we're seeing here on the screen, I'll get my mouse over here, what we're seeing here on the screen is a sort of a version of a high flex course, where for the high flex course, there might be some of us who come together in class, and then some of us who sort of conference in through a video chat service such as Teams or Zoom or something like that. And so we sort of have this mix and match of different options for how we can deliver our courses. But all that kind of information will be in the syllabus. All right, so totally leads me into talking about how the road to success is paved with information. It's really harking back to what Bruce Ham was talking about with the success being preparation plus opportunity. And preparation is gathering information. And this will really help alleviate a lot of anxiety, because very often we have anxiety about the unknown. And as soon as we start collecting information, we start to know the expectations, we start to know what we have to do to accomplish a particular task. And the knowing makes the road forward, the pathway more clear and seems easier, and we have less anxiety. So we often have more anxiety before we get information. We have less anxiety after we've gathered some information. So have to start with the syllabus. Syllabus is the most important document, and it will contain everything. My syllabi are very long because I really want my students to have the confidence that comes with knowing what's going on. So the evaluation, the schedule, the contact info, everything's in there. And then another key component of gathering information is to check out Brightspace. So Brightspace is the learning management system, the sort of the website where all of your courses will have their own website. within that. So you go to Brightspace and you'll see a link for a course website for whatever courses you're taking. And within each website, they'll have the materials, they'll have resources, that's where you'll find your grades. All of that stuff will be contained in the Brightspace website. So the key here is to go and check out all of that stuff so you have information and you know what the expectations are. All right, here are some minions here just to distract. So success involves teamwork. And sometimes, you're trying to unscrew a light bulb and all these minions are just doing their own thing. All right, I'll let them finish their thing. Okay, and we'll stop that from playing itself over and over again. So success involves teamwork, and it turns out that we're all on the same team here. Your professors are part of your team. Your teaching assistants are part of your team. Very important part of your team will be your PMC advisor. They're going to be a really crucial part of your team. And guess what? You are also part of your team. So yay, team. And a key component of successful teamwork is communication. We have to talk with each other. So at the start of the term, your course websites will open up and you'll get your course syllabi, your course outlines. And in that, it'll talk about the expectations of the course. And so then you'll go and arrange a meeting with your PMC advisor. The two of you are going to work on sorting out how you're going to arrange accommodations. The other thing that you could do right at the beginning of the term is you can talk to your professors. Send them an email just to say hello. Let them know that you're working on the accommodation process with your advisor. And so that gives your professor a heads up. They know to expect that this is coming. And then the accommodation process will be done. A letter of accommodation will be produced. That letter will get sent to you, and at the same time, it'll get sent to your professors. And so then at that point, your professor and you will have a conversation about what the next steps are for that particular course. For me in my courses, when I get my letters of accommodation, I contact my student just to let them know, I've got this letter, and I sort of give them the steps of, okay, this is how this is going to play out. I'm pretty comfortable with this process because I've done this a lot, but some of your professors, they might be new, they might be teaching a course for the very first time, and so they may not be sure of how the steps should go. And it's okay to sort of mention to them of like, they've got the letter of accommodation. I'm just checking in to see if there are any questions that that we need to address as we move forward to the upcoming test or assignment or whatever. And of course, last point here, when in doubt, reach out. There's all these people on your team who are here to help you out. So reach out and ask questions, or reach out and engage in good communication. Okay, I want to talk about success and planning for success. This is a very important part of success, period, in any domain, anywhere, anytime. Good planning will help contribute to success. But I really think that in this online learning environment, success really needs good planning. So you got to use a calendar. And you'll see here, I've got a sample calendar. I've just done this up in Excel. I made up sort of a dummy calendar in Excel. It doesn't have to be in Excel. It doesn't matter how you do it. Just do it in a way that you're going to actually engage with that calendar, that you're going to use it. So if it is a paper book day timer, or if it's scraps of paper that you tape to your fridge, or if it's Outlook, or like whatever it is, pick a calendar that you're actually going to use and engage with, and then you got to map everything out in your calendar. So map out your courses. If you have synchronous courses or face-to-face courses, those will be things where you have to be at a certain location at a certain time. That goes in your calendar. Plan all of your other kinds of activities. And you'll notice in my sample calendar here, I put in some time for getting some exercise, time for eating, and some free time. You need some personal time too. But you also want to plan your study time, and you also want to put in a plan for accomplishing your assignments. And actually, if I go backwards here, you'll see in my sample dummy calendar, I've got these purple blocks that are just homework and studying. And what I'm not doing in that sample calendar is I'm not following pro tip number 1. So for pro tip number 1, be specific with scheduling your homework. So when you put in a block of study time, Don't just put in generic, I'm going to study at this particular time of the day. Actually get specific. So put in, I'm going to read the first half of my sociology textbook, or I'm going to work on the the chapter 1 problems for my calculus course. So whatever it is, get specific and specifically put that in. If you get specific with your calendar, you're more likely to do it. You kind of think of it like having a part-time job and your boss schedules you for a shift at work. Well, when your boss schedules you for a shift, you show up and you do the job. But if your boss doesn't schedule you for a shift, you're probably not likely going to show up and start working because you're not scheduled for it. Same thing with studying. You need to schedule in that time and get specific so you know what you're doing when you show up. Okay, which brings me to pro tip number 2. For pro tip number 2, this is harking back to those asynchronous courses. For synchronous courses or for a class that's face-to-face, it's already scheduled. You got to be here at that time or be online at that time. But for an asynchronous course, the lectures have been recorded, they're posted, you can watch them at any time. But that makes it very easy to say, I'll watch it tomorrow. Tomorrow me will watch it. Today me would like to do something else. But the reality is that tomorrow you isn't going to be any more inclined to watch that video, and tomorrow you has a day less time to get all that work done. So you really need to schedule in time for watching your asynchronous courses. And then when you schedule that, just like your shift at work, you got to show up at that time and do the work. But if you don't schedule it in, then you're less likely to accomplish it, and then you're procrastinating and you're leaving it to the future. And then what happens in the future is you have all the work to do, but you have less time to do it. Okay, turning our mistakes into successes. We all make mistakes. Mistakes are okay. I make mistakes all the time. I just deal with it. But the key here is to learn from mistakes. So when it happens, not even if, when it happens, let's take a moment to reflect on what happened. So, okay, well, what went on here to contribute to this particular outcome? And then the key is to think about, well, when this happens in the future, when I'm in a similar situation in the future, what could I do differently to create a different outcome? And that really is putting the agency, the control back into your hands to say, okay, yeah, I made that mistake, but what can I do differently? How can I change the future situation so that I create a different outcome, a successful outcome? And then part of this is, when you're uncertain about sort of what happened or how to change it for the future, is to reach out. Look for opportunities to get some feedback or some comments on your work, right? So if you submit a paper, there'll be comments on the paper, or if it's a test or an assignment, you can always talk to your teaching assistant or your professor and ask sort of how you could have done things differently. Okay. So last part here, as I'm wrapping up, I just want to say there's lots of people here on campus who are here to help this be a wonderful experience and a successful experience. So your PMC advisors are a really important part of that. And there's lots of resources on campus. And so I'm not the only resource. There's lots of other resources. But I will point out that one of the things I've done over the last couple of years is I've developed a YouTube channel called The Science of Academic Success, where I talk about the research and we dissect the research, and then I discuss how do we apply this into our own lives to create our own successes. Okay, I'm officially done. Thanks everybody for listening to that, and I'm going to assume that someone will control the screen here.
Thanks, Professor Motz. I hope you can all see why we love listening to Chris talk about his recommendations and insights into how to prepare for the classroom. So, Chris, I'm going to open up the floor for our attendees to ask you a few questions. And it looks like we do have a question already queued up to go. So, I've just been referring to you as Chris and Professor Motz, but how do professors know what to call, or how do students know what to call their professors?
Oh, yes, that's a good question. So I typically, I'm fine with just being called Chris, but some of your professors may prefer a more formal, greeting. So when in doubt, I always say, when in doubt, follow the Hogwarts system. So Harry and Ron and Hermione were not just sort of going out, hey, Minerva, right? It was always Professor McGonagall. That's a really good, safe bet. And then if a professor has a preference of, oh, just call me Chris, then they will typically communicate that. So for me, at the beginning of the course in the first class, I will say, hi, my name is Christopher Motz, but please just call me Chris. So they'll communicate that. And I actually also put it into the syllabus as well, that I'm very fine with just being called Chris. So first day of class, they'll typically let you know, but when in doubt, follow the Hogwarts sort of rule of thumb.
Excellent. Okay. And so the other question is, why should I go to my professor or my TA's office hours?
Why could?
Why should?
Should. That's actually a great question, and there are a lot of reasons to do this. Number one is it helps to make us feel more comfortable with just having a conversation. I just love sitting and chatting. One of my favorite things to do is after class is done to hang around in the hallway and just have a discussion and sit and stand around and chat about what we were just talking about in class. So it's good for conversations. You would go to a professor's office hours if you had specific questions about the course material. And sometimes it's nice just to pop by and introduce yourself and realize that, they're just a friendly face and they're, happy to see me. It's also nice if you're really interested in a particular professor's research area and you like, their research area, like particularly if it's your major, you might be interested in potentially working with them in the future, doing a research project with that particular professor. So you can show up and ask about their research and chat about their research. You also might be, particularly if it's your major, you might be interested in, when you finish your degree, what kind of career might you have afterwards? And so you could chat about, what are the sorts of career pathways that open up when I complete my degree in this particular field. So there's lots of reasons. Number one is just, to be able to see a friendly face and sort of alleviate some of that anxiety. But your professor can also be a source of information, not just about the course content, but about other things like future careers and et cetera.
And to that point too, why would I see my professor versus my TA and vice versa?
That's a good question. The answer to that is going to vary depending on the course. So not every course will have the same, we'll call it division of labor. In some courses, the professor may want the TA to be the first point of contact. So if you have questions about the course content or questions about an assignment, the professor may want you to go see the TA first. And they probably communicate that in the course syllabus. In some cases, you might go to the TA might be running lab sessions or discussion sessions, and so you might go to the TA to talk about things that are related to those, and then stuff that's related maybe to the lecture portion of the course, you might go to talk to the professor about that. So different courses will divide up the labor between the professor and the TA slightly differently, and so what you might go to each one about might differ depending on the course. The teaching assistants are often graduate students in that field. So, if you're doing a degree in English literature or you're doing a degree in, engineering, the teaching assistant is usually a senior student or a graduate student in that discipline. And so they might be able to talk to you more about what it's like to be a student in that discipline. Whereas the professor is probably like old, like me, and has forgotten what it was like to be a student.
Okay, lots of stuff to consider. So you had mentioned it's a good practice to tell yourself to do that Sorry, I think you might need to mute when one of us is talking, just so the feedback. There we go. So you had mentioned that when it's a good practice to introduce yourself to your prof via email. Oh, you can't hear anything? Uh, yeah. So my question is, or the question
Oh, no.
that was raising
Amanda?
was, yep.
Amanda, I'm not sure when I got muted. Unfortunately, it also seemed to have muted my my speakers, my headphones.
Okay.
So I got none of that question. Can you give me the Coles notes of the question?
I can give it to you again. Yeah. So you had suggested that students email their profs to confirm either how their accommodations will be put in place for the class after the coordinator sends them, or to even just introduce themselves. So how long can a student expect to receive a response from a professor? Will it happen right away?
That's a great question. Right now, I'm averaging under an hour in terms of responses, but it won't always be like that. There are times when I might need to sleep. A good rule of thumb, a good sort of guide is, just to acknowledge that we as people have a lot of different things going on in our lives, right? We have families to look after. We have other aspects of our job. And so we can't necessarily sit on email and answer email all the time. So we might, to try and get other work done, we might put email off and wait until maybe the start of the day or the end of the day, and then try to get through a lot of emails. So most people, if they're being conscientious, that would be nice, would probably try to get to answering email at least once a day. And so if you send an email out and if you don't get a response, let's say within 2 days, 2 working days, we'll call it. So let some profs actually take weekends off. Sure, that can happen. So 2 working days, if you don't get a response within 2 working days, it would be fair to send a response just to say, I had sent this, back, and I'm wondering if you've had a chance to see this yet, or if maybe the email didn't get through the first time. So 2 working days is probably fair before sending a follow-up, and hopefully your profs will have responded faster than that.
Excellent. Okay. And we're just going to backtrack a little bit because we had another question about office hours because it's new for a lot of people. So we've talked a lot about preparation today. So should you prepare for office hours? Can students ask about course content during those office hours? Like what do you talk about with a prof?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. Should you prepare for office hours? And the answer is you certainly don't have to. You can just come to chat. And that's okay. If you're coming for an open sort of conversation without sort of a focused series of questions that you're trying to work through, it's very good to pay attention to whether there are other people waiting to get in, right? So some professors, are popular and they'll have a lineup of people waiting to get into the office hours. And if you just show up just wanting to chat and have a more casual conversation, then it might be sort of more fair to the other people to sort of keep your conversation to a sort of a shorter period of time. And then if you have some more directed questions, those are great. Actually, I find it very meaningful when a student has read the textbook, but it didn't understand a few points, and they come with those few points and they're ready to talk about them and ask questions, and we can have a conversation about those series of points. So you don't have to prepare, but if you're looking for some specific information, it's good to sort of have numbered your questions and put them into a meaningful framework so that when you get in there, you can be efficient with the conversation.
Excellent. So that was a lot for us to go over, and you gave us a lot of really good points. It's hard to believe the 10-minute question period is over. We really appreciate you speaking to our students this afternoon, Chris. And I hope that some of you watching get to take Professor Motz's classes in the future. You won't regret it. And Chris, we hope to have you back sometime soon. I know Professor Motz has also offered to answer any other questions that weren't addressed during this question period. So feel free to keep your questions coming if you think of anything for professors to answer, and we will pass those along to Professor Motz. So thanks again, Chris.